I'm Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco, and welcome to another episode of the RSO Roundup. As you know, we've been highlighting the Sheriff's Department, and we've had some different personnel from our department come and speak about what they do. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're still talking about the Sheriff's Department. We're going to be talking a little bit about homeless, but with us today we have a special guest who's near and dear to our hearts, especially at the Southwest Station area. We have Ann from Project Touch. So,
Hi.
Ann, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Chad. I appreciate it.
So, for all of you that don't know, we obviously have a homeless problem in Riverside County, and from a law enforcement perspective, we know that the vast majority of the people that are homeless that you see on as you're driving down the street, they don't want help. This is a lifestyle for them. They're drug and alcohol addicted, and the mental health issue is a drug-induced psychosis, as far as I'm concerned, or law enforcement. But there are times when we come across people who are legitimately homeless, and we, as a deputy in a patrol car, when you find that person, I don't want to say you get excited, because we obviously feel for people that are like that, but we know that this person needs help and we are going to be able to help them. And a lot of times those situations, those encounters happen in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. And county businesses, county buildings, county offices, other than the Sheriff's Department, are not open in the middle of the night. So a lot of times we're stuck with what we can do and how we can help that person. We've seen some things highlighted on social media where deputies are temporarily paying for hotel rooms for someone to stay overnight or something, but a lot of times that's not an option. There's nothing after that first day. And what we are blessed to have in the Temecula area is Project Touch and Ann, and you've been working with us for a long time.
Yes, just under 15 years now.
15 years out of the Temecula station.
Correct.
And I know all of the deputies there know you, and unfortunately for you, probably they all have you on speed dial.
A lot of them do, yes.
So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, years ago, and I say it was just short of 15 years, we were approached. We were just getting up and running in our nonprofit and trying to serve the homeless. And one of the churches that we coordinated with said, look, the chief here, they're encountering homeless. They don't know what to do. There's no services down here. So we just organically started, it was called the Police Church Response Program, where we would train volunteers and we would put a different church on call each month. Middle of the night, if we took the calls, we would take the person off law enforcement's hands and we would deal with it, whether we were putting them in a hotel. And from there, it evolved to where we decided, look, we need housing. And the problems, back then, the problem wasn't huge. Now it is beyond imagination, as everybody knows. And so it organically grew, and we just kept on answering the police calls, and just eventually we dropped off part of the church rotation, and I learned that it's hard for volunteers to answer their calls at midnight.
Right.
I'm okay with it. So we kind of have a group of us in a rotation that we take all the calls, but a lot of calls during the day too. And it's just been amazing. You referenced earlier saying, well, officers don't get excited when they see that candidate of homeless. Well, in my experience, they do. I was really moved how much the officers do want to help people in need, and they get very involved. And I know multiple police officers that have come out of their own pocket and paid for motels. So being able to serve people that are trying to serve has been an honor and a blessing for us. And it's just evolved into now we're up to 230 beds. So, and the word spreads, your number gets passed around. I've gotten calls from Moreno Valley, Menifee, like Elsinore, and that's fine.
Well, and that's probably a little bit of my fault too, because when I go around and talk, I throw your name out there all the time, and I throw out the just the relationship that we have, that the deputies have with you, and if we could box you up, and if we could clone what you have going and put that absolutely. We could do that at every station, and we could help individuals closer to home rather than, I know some cities do send them down to you, and you do accommodate every time that you can.
Yes.
That is a lot of beds. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think you're full quite often.
Well, we always rotate our emergency beds. We learned that there's a lot of people in crisis. one of the biggest candidates that we serve, unfortunately, is domestic violence. They become homeless in a minute, and we try to never turn down domestic violence victims because it's a dangerous situation. They have to be able to leave where they are. And we rotate the emergency beds to every 21 days, so we always, in emergency crisis, try to make room. And if there's no room, we try to create it and always try to help as best we can.
Now, it doesn't really necessarily happen all of the time because, sometimes a deputy will contact someone that's homeless, living on the streets, that may have been there for a while,
Right.
that we're able to get into your help, your care.
Right.
But usually, a lot of the times, especially with the domestic violence victim, and it could be men and women,
Correct.
that are homeless because of that domestic violence incident,
That's
whether
right.
they round up the kids and they leave out of fear or whatever it is, and we find them in a traffic stop or in an occupied vehicle check or in a parking lot or something, and it's obviously they're sleeping in their car.
Right.
We do get excited when that happens
You
because
do.
we know we can help.
Right.
And we know that person wants help. And I think a lot of the beauty with your organization, and I believe why it's successful and why you have so many people, and I've heard so many of the success stories that you've had from the folks that you've helped. But I think that a lot of why it's successful is you have law enforcement that are contacting them, and they obviously know that we're there to help them, and the deputies are trying to coax the help out of them. We can help you. We can get you into someplace for the night. And I think not to shy away from government, because I think that our county does a good job of getting people into programs.
Right.
But I think sometimes people are afraid of government
Correct.
assistance, and they're afraid of that government involvement. So going to a private entity, a private organization, I think they're a little bit more comfortable.
They are, and then we can be a good bridge and a conduit to connect them with the services, get their trust. We are faith-based, but we help absolutely everyone, and we don't force our Christian faith on anyone. But we're doing this out of a genuine place of love and a mandate from our faith to help people that are in need. So when people do come to us, we can get that trust factor, and especially if you're dealing with someone with some mental health issues, that's a big deal to get that window of trust. And then we've had stories where we've had people that were completely schizophrenic, and they came in and they were sensible enough to know they were being loved and fed and cared for, and the trust to get them to start taking their medication and seeking the proper care and seeing a complete transformation within 30 days. That's in the miracle realm with us. So we just have a story of a gentleman I've been dealing with, one of the guys that your law enforcement would have known well in Temecula, but for 10 years he's been struggling with addiction and homelessness, but he finally went to rehab, and he said, I'm ready to make a change. So he's with us now, and this may be the 8th, 9th, 10th time I've helped him, but you always got to believe that this could be the time they turn it around.
Yeah.
And love has boundaries and consequences, but it also measures out the grace. And I'm really proud because he's doing good, and I'm hopeful.
That's really great news, because we don't want to come across the same people over and over and over again. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, though, because we know that, and statistics are showing that 100 times, 150 times, you're going to have to contact someone, and it really is up to them whether they want help.
Right.
That is a little bit different than the ones that are really afraid and struggling in that initial homelessness, where they really were kicked out of their house, or they ran out of fear or something like that.
Right.
And we, as first responders, we have to decide which ones those are, and quickly determine whether or not that person is going to get help, or whether or not we're going to. We certainly don't want to send someone to you or have you help someone that is a danger. We can't do that.
And the police are very good about that and respectful. They respect that we are in shared housing, and we have long conversations, and they've been great about that.
Yeah, you just the word that popped into my head, and I know why this is so successful, and I've said this over and over and over again. The relationship that you have built between the deputies and the station and us as a department is why this is successful. It's you've said a couple of times of love and everything else, but that relationship I mean, it's formed that. It's formed that friendship and that
Yes.
love that we know you're providing that. And we, the relationship we have with you, we're certainly not going to put you in danger. And we know that you bend over backwards to help these people when we come across them, because we can't just leave them there. A mom and her kids in a car. We can't
Right.
just leave them. And we can't wait till morning for something to open
Correct.
up in the government realm. So having you available is just a unbelievable resource and asset for our department. But it really all comes down to you and your organization, that we wouldn't have that had you not decided that this is what you were going to do.
Called.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, it was a calling for sure. It's comparable to when you are truly the first responders on the front lines dealing with everything. And it would be almost like when you have to call an ambulance and take them to the hospital in the middle of the night and you not have hospitals open. You have to have emergency services for what the officers are dealing with when someone is in critical need of help. So my prayer is that we do somewhat be able to take our model and spread it, because I can only be in so many places at one time, and hopefully we can serve other areas would be the goal, to take this and spread it to other areas and serve more law enforcement and more people in need.
Right. And we know, I'd like to say I would like 10 of you to put in all of our stations, but we already know that we have several stations that are calling you and utilizing your resources and your beds to rescue these men and women that
Highway
are
patrol too.
Yes, we tell them the good stories too.
It's okay.
But over the years, how many people do you think you've helped, or do you know?
Oh gosh, thousands.
And
thousands.
it's mostly a law enforcement response.
No, we get a lot of call. We do a lot of law enforcement response, and that number, probably because we do it so long, is probably definitely over 1,000. But now, because homelessness is so critical of an issue, that we get calls. We get calls from adult protective services, child protective services, the hospitals, the school districts, everybody, because there's such a lack of housing. I'm a real simple girl. When you're homeless, you're less a home. So you got to start there and bring all the surrounding support, issues that you got to deal with, help for those issues around that. But you got to be able to lay your head down and be stable somewhere. So we've just been so busy ever since we began.
So one of the things that I like about how you're helping them and getting them back on their feet is that you're not just giving them something. They work for it, and they end up helping you and being your helpers.
The clients that we serve, some of them rise into a servant leadership position. Some of them, they're all required to do community service as a part of our program. I think it's very important, giving back. It's a part of the healing. Many people come in. You got to think, if they're with us, they've broken a lot of family ties. So, there's some issues there. So when they give back, it's healing for them, and it's just, as a faith base, that's the way the church should look like, that it's a lot of volunteerism and giving back. So people are not allowed to just, take a free ride. They can come in as emergency, but we quickly get them a time frame to, let's help you get to the next step, and then go into transitional where they are paying their fees, because how are we going to help them to be productive in the real world if we're not helping them do that while they're in our program? One of the best things we ever did is, I used to feel like, well, they're homeless, I can't have a deposit. That was horrible. What we do now is we have it's a client savings deposit program where monthly they're learning to pay this. So when they finally, at the end of the year, get ready to transition, we have just under $100,000 in client savings now that we're giving checks to people to be able to move on to permanent housing. And we do shared housing, remember. And if anyone's checked out rental prices lately, mathematically, that's where it is for so many people now.
Yeah.
So they can organically meet people in our program, and then they go out and get their own place together for more permanent housing. It's really cool to watch how it works out. Never boring. We certainly have our issues and bumps and bruises, but it all works out.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the stories, the success stories that I've heard and spoken with them at different events that you've had, and you always seem to highlight, someone comes and highlights their story, and they always, the emotion that they have of that someone helped them, someone wanted to help them, and for us, the ones I've seen, obviously, if I was there, it was because it was law enforcement related, and they usually say that they were stopped, or they were found doing something or parked somewhere, and law enforcement contacted you, and so that's how that relationship was built. And then those those deputies even keep in touch sometimes and see how the people are doing, they keep following up, and they're building that relationship.
Yeah.
So there isn't that, sometimes we may like to think that people don't like the cops and they're afraid of the cops, and sometimes that may be the case, but the deputies that go out there and help are truly trying to break that cycle and that perception.
Yes.
In really showing that we're trying to help them. We want them in a good place where they can help themselves, and you're going to help them. And then by that relationship that you're building with them, they're going to be successful.
Yeah. I see the best of the best in law enforcement because I deal with them when they are really emotionally involved in trying to help people. And they try to play tough sometimes, like guarded, but I'm like, no. They're just, really trying to help somebody. And it's come so far because homelessness way back when we started, the officer, is this going to be the Hug a Bum program? And we joke back and forth, and I joke with them now. To see the change over the years, it's almost like we've had a really... We minister to a lot of people that are broken that we serve, but we've also ministered to a lot of law enforcement over the years, and that's been a joy and a pleasure. And I can't say enough because, yes, it has been very challenging times for law enforcement. And I always tell people, no, you don't see this other side that we see, and it's a blessing.
Yeah, and I can say that even just watching you talk about it and listening to you talk about it, I can see why you're successful because you have an emotional attachment to it.
Yeah,
and I can see and hear the emotion as you start talking about it. So
it's real
I think
lives
that when
changed.
And when we all look at it like that, and when we look at how can we all work together to help this person that's in need that actually wants help,
right?
We're successful, and maybe not every single time.
Correct.
But your example of you just keep trying, and eventually that comes through.
It does. And the police, they've come a long way, really, because it's become so complicated with the complexities of mental health. Many times, yes, self-induced with the drug addiction. Sometimes not. There's many people who mental health is on the rise, and I can't explain to you why, but we have seen a surge in it. Yes, I see the drug-related part of it. And police are really good, really trying to deal with that mental health component. It's come such a long way. And like you have the, I think the CERT teams where you have the mental health facility riding along with police now and dealing with people in crisis. I wish we could just have so much more collaborative effort to really deal with it the way we are. We have some good models set. And how can we do this and help more people? Because it is effective. It's really effective.
Sometimes, like a lot of things, when I don't want to, this isn't negative about a government program, but sometimes when there's too many different programs involved and people involved, we get in silos and we forget that there's an end user here that we should all be concerned with. Doesn't necessarily have to be the county helping or you helping. It could be a combination of both, or it could be a combination of churches. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, I've said this a lot. That's a mission of the church. The church should be engaged in helping people that are in need and that are looking for that help. So your Project Touch, obviously I know you didn't win the lottery.
No.
And this is
well, I did.
You won the life lottery.
Yes, I surrendered to God for my purpose, and we never run out of the ability to, as long as I stay on the mission to help people, we are always provided for. And then if we run short, we auction you off for $10,000 at a golf tournament and raise more money.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Yes. But you have some very generous individuals and businesses and entities that are helping in your mission.
Correct.
And they see what you're doing for people that are homeless, the residents of Temecula, or the just people that need help.
We have great supporters.
And a lot of times, especially people that are generous with their money, that like helping, they're not in a position to do what you're doing. Right. But they can help with their money.
People want to support us. They can go online, projecttouchonline.com, our website, and see how you can volunteer or donate. You can also call our office if you know someone in need to do an intake, which is area code 951-677-9661. And just supporting everything we've talked about, just so people know that Project Touch does mean Together Our Unity Conquers Homelessness. Our mission is bridging individual and collective bodies of faith together with the business and civil communities to overcome homelessness and establish effective methods of homeless prevention. So working it out to conquer homeless one day, one call at a time.
That sounds like a very, very concise mission statement and model for everyone to follow. I'm very thankful that we have you. I was, from the first time I met you, you're obviously a very likable person, but then learning about what you're doing and where you came from and what you're doing and why you chose this and how you were called to it, and it was a calling, and you didn't shy away from that. You just jumped in the deep end and swam to shore. Yeah. And you've obviously made a huge impact on the sheriff's department. I know there's not a deputy, especially in Temecula, that doesn't know who you are and what you're doing. And it's the new deputies that go there on training. They learn that right from the beginning. And we just couldn't thank you enough for what you're doing for us to help us, but also it's the people that we're trying to help. You are eventually helping. So we couldn't say enough about you. For all of you out there, if you want to help Ann at Project Touch, you certainly can. She needs volunteers. She needs generous people to donate. And I think we have. I don't think we're going to lose you anytime soon. I think your organizations are going to just get bigger and bigger, and we're going to use you more and more as that happens.
It's the biggest need in California is the homeless issue. It's not
We all
going
talk
away.
about it. We all talk about the homeless issue, and there's so many different aspects to it.
It is. It's complex.
Yes.
It is complex. We could talk for days about that, but just you being on the front lines in the trenches, law enforcement. However, I think it was just how we can serve you to serve people, that if that theme continues and we keep incorporating that with other agencies, hopefully we'll be able to make a really effective dent in the issue of homelessness here in Riverside County.
Very nice. Well, I hope this highlighting you and highlighting the work that we're doing with you and you with us, I hope this generates a little bit of assistance to you, which we know is going to help me. So not that I'm doing it selfishly, but I know that we're all in the same mission. It's that end user that needs our help.
It is.
And we're working together in our relationship to build a relationship with them.
Yeah, it's a blessing just to be here and hang out and chat with you.
Well, good.
So thank you for inviting.
I'm glad you came. Yes. So for all of you watching and listening, thank you very, very much. This was a special day for me. I'm very glad to have Ann and that she agreed to come and participate in this show. So for all of you watching, thank you. And until next time, we'll see you at the next Roundup.